Hey, how's everybody doing? So you've been used to seeing me doing musical performances here on Facebook. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to those. We got another one coming up March 28th, the 80s. But before we do that, I said I wanted to do some brief interview segments. And a lot of you said you want to hear some origin stories. A lot of you said you want to hear some road stories. So I want to start with a very funny road story. I'm trying to remember the year now. It might have been 2012, I want to say. I was calling around, as I always did, to various council on aging centers. After years of doing nursing homes, I decided to expand into senior centers, council on aging centers. And one of those that I decided to call was in Carver, Massachusetts. And the director at the time, whose name eludes me, but that's what happens, was not available. But there was a gentleman by the name of John. I can't think of his last name, but I remember his first name. He had answered because he was answering the phone while the director was on vacation. He was on the board, the actual council for the Council on Aging in Carver there, or CAVA, as we say back in Mass. He had answered the phone, and we got to talking, and he asked me, well, what do you do? And I told him about what I did. And so I think Oliveira might have been his last name, and that just came to me for some reason. And he said, well, let me tell you what. He says, I am, in addition to working here at the senior center in Carver. Oh, I just shook the phone. John says to me, I am the president of the Residents Council for a 55 and over mobile home park in Carver. And he says, why don't you come do a show for us? We discussed an hour show, $100, I think is what I was charging at that time. And he says, yeah. He says, come on down. And he says, I'm looking over your list because I had emailed a list to the center. He pulled it up while he was talking to me on the phone. And he says, all right, I pulled up the list of the shows you offer. Why don't you do this one called Jukebox Memories for us? That sounds like a lot of fun. And for those of you who don't know, Jukebox Memories was a show that I had done celebrating the movies of the music of the 50s and 60s. Rather than do the 50s as one show and the 60s as a separate, I decided to combine them because that's pretty much, that's widely been considered the golden age of rock and roll by music critics and fans alike. So I agreed, and we set a date. It was sometime in like November, I think. I remember it was colder out, and I had my 98 Dodge Caravan at the time. To this day, still one of my favorite cars, as strange as that may sound to most people. Big Red, we used to call her. So I got the equipment all in the van, and using the GPS. Before GPS was common in cell phones, I had the Garmin dash unit, and so program the address to go down and do the show. And I remember that it directed me to the park, which was right off of Route 58. Anybody who knows Carver knows Route 58. And there was a big illuminated sign that said, welcome. I don't even remember the name of the park now. I mean, this is 7 years ago. And I saw the big lit up sign for the park, and I said, okay, here we are. Here's the entrance. So I pulled in the entrance, and the further I drove, of course, driving slowly because the speed limit is like 5 miles per hour going through the roads of this park, I couldn't help but notice that the further into the interior of the park I got, the less streetlights there were. And they're just these wooden signs with arrows pointing to, the direction to, looking for the clubhouse or looking for the mailboxes or the pool or, whatever you're looking for. And it reminded me of, the Friday the 13th movie, Camp Crystal Lake, the rackety wooden signs. And with the little arrows that engraved, that are actually part of the shape of the sign. And like I said, as I got further into the interior, Kitty's barking at people outside. So as I got further into the interior, there's less and less light. And I'm thinking to myself, Jason Voorhees is going to pop up from behind one of these trees at any moment. I'm like, I'm getting creeped out. I'm like, am I on a wild goose chase? I didn't know, So then I saw a sign that said main office. I said, okay, if anywhere, this is where I'm going to go. We're talking, I think, like 5, 6 in the evening. Yeah, because I think my show time was like 7:30. So this is like 5 or 6. I'm probably go closer to 6 o'clock. And I'm just getting creeped out by the fact that it's so dark out there, and I don't see any signs of life. Well, then I see the mobile homes, but no lights on anywhere. I'm just like, okay, this is odd. Now, if you didn't hear that, that was a plane. I live next to an airport here in Kissimmee Gateway Airport. So that was a plane that just took off or landed. I think it might have been landing. Anyway, so I follow the sign to the main office, and the road is coming upon a hill. So here's this huge hill, and I'm going up the hill. Got to accelerate a little bit past 5 so I can, MPH, so I can get up this hill. And as I'm ascending the hill, there's this huge, and I mean gigantic, building. And the front of it is glass. And there's lights inside from these fancy Dan chandeliers. And I see a lot of people inside. And I said, you know what? I think this is where we're supposed to be. I think this is the room. So I pull out front and I go, I don't unload the van yet. I go inside, and this older gentleman walks up to me and he says, "You must be Vic." I said, "You must be John," because I recognized his voice. And sure enough, that was the ballroom, or like the function room where I was performing that night. Needless to say, the show went off without a hitch. But I just wanted to share with you that funny story about driving up to that building in that darkened trailer park in Carver, Massachusetts. Uncle Cliff, if you ever watched this, remind me of the. I think you worked there at one time, or you knew someone that lived there or something. So feel free to type in the name of that trailer park. I don't remember at all. But I remember that night, and I remember the show going off without a hitch. I remember everybody enjoyed it. Everyone was dancing. I took home a plate of desserts that I probably ate on the ride home. But that's one of the more interesting stories. And we still got some time here. I can do these videos up to 20 and a half minutes long. So quickly, I'll throw in an origin story. And of course, the show I'm most famous for, especially back in New England, is Elvis. Now, the tale that I would tell when I would do the show is I used to say, oh, I did Elvis at a variety show in high school, and my dad was in the audience, and he was impressed, and he said, oh, you should do Elvis, and you should. And some of that's true, because he was there, and I did do, it was sophomore year of high school, and I did Can't Help Falling in Love, and that's entertainment. All my MHS speech and theater people, you all know the show I'm talking about. And I did Can't Help Falling in Love in a ramshackle jumpsuit that the costume girls put together. It was actually just like a tunic almost, and I put it over a white long sleeve button down, starched the collar up, and I had some white pants. And Dave Brigham lent me his acoustic guitar that we strapped it to my back, and I walked out on stage with. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Chris, for getting that for me. My brother. So from there, my dad was always convinced that I did a good Elvis impersonation. So I remember he'd have parties at the house, and we'd put on the oldies and put on Elvis, and I would start doing the dance the hips thing and lip sync along with the records, and everybody paid attention to me when I did that. So that was pretty cool. But that was the launching point of Elvis. I didn't really start to think about doing Elvis until much later. Well, not much later, but maybe about 5 or 6 years later, because I'd started working at the time, Hill Haven of East Bridgewater. Now last I knew it was called Sachem. I think it still is. I don't know. Anybody who knows can correct me on that, but it was Sachem last I knew. I started doing shows there, and I have them all on film, on DVD now. And The first couple shows were mixed bags and Christmas shows and things like that. But eventually, in 1996, I didn't have an Elvis suit of my own, so I rented one from a costume shop in Abington. And it was a nice suit. And I did the show. And a buddy of mine from Halifax, Dave Perry, I think was his name. Was it Dave Perry? Yeah. Him and I used to do the Rock Talk show, the cable TV show in West Bridgewater. He came and filmed the show for me. And it was fun. And it really gave me the confidence to do Elvis again, not only for Sachem, but then later on. Got to give a shout out to Judy Gill, because she was an activities assistant at Sachem at the time I'm talking about, before she ultimately became the director. She was the one who kept telling me, Vic, you should take this out on the road, do some other places, make some money. So I took her up on that advice. I mean, at first it was just other Kindred Homes, the parent company that owned East Bridgewater. I went to Brockton and Stoughton and a few others, but then I started venturing out, and before you knew it, I was on the road perpetually doing Elvis. And then the first Elvis suit that I bought was the black leather 68 comeback special, which I don't have anymore. I outgrew it. But I still have the others, the Aloha from Hawaii and the blue and the red and the gold and black, which a lot of you have seen pictures or video of or what have you. So here we are almost 30 years later, talking about it. So obviously I did something right. It was fun. It was a good time. Some good memories. And Facebook's giving me an alert right now. So, there it goes. So, there it is. That's my first interview. Hope you all enjoyed it. The infamous Carver Camp Crystal Lake trailer park story and the origin of Elvis. And we'll do another one of these real soon. I'll think of another funny origin or an interesting origin story or a funny road story, and we'll be back. So hope you all enjoyed it. I'm going to hit the button here and sign off. Everybody have a good night.